Hello and welcome to After the Close. My name is James Boyd. We welcome you here today. We got Connie Hill in the chat. So we always joke when Connie and I are working together. There's the bell. We always joke when Connie and I work together, we're the redheads. So we have a little fun with that. We're a little spunky, and I know Connie is. Hello, Jim. Hello back to you. Wiley, hello to you. Robert, David, Greg, Life in the Fast Lane, Scott, and many others, welcome to all. So let's kind of talk about after the close, kind of some of the action we saw here today, and also some things that might be setting up going into tomorrow. We might be thinking like after the close doing what? Well, number one is you might kind of look back and see kind of what happened today. Are there any positions in terms of management that you're going to be doing in the after hours? Some of us might be trading some or closing some positions out in the after hours. I want to kind of show that. And then also you might be saying, look, I want to set up some orders for tomorrow. Those are kind of some of the things that you might do in the after hours or the after the close. Now remember, you can follow Connie or myself on X. There is my handle there. And what you're now going to notice is when we take a look at this, you can also, by the way, when we actually post on X, remember that we don't solicit. So if someone reaches out, that's not us. Just you can remember our handles are first name, last name, CS for Charles Schwab. We post educational updates and announcements there. So just real quick, now, by the way, you might not be on X. I used to think X was like, why would I do X? X is very interesting because that's really how traders talk to each other. They share information. And some of the information there, if you follow the right people, very interesting, okay? Also remember that when we talk about examples here today, the information we talk about is done for informational purposes only. When we talk or if we talk about options, remember that options are not suitable for all investors. And also remember that the examples that we're going to do them on a paper money account. And when we talk about examples, we need to remember that investing involves risk. Now, also when you might be kind of thinking in general, you know, Kevin normally teaches this. Where's Kevin? Kevin is actually, he went to New York last week for the in-person event. Second, he is going to be in Chicago, flying to Chicago here today. And also with that, I want to kind of pull something up. Also to kind of note that where can you find those in-person events? Well, those in-person events, if we go to just real quick, want to show you something. This page right here, if you went to schwab.com/coaching, okay, let me send that page to you right there. Okay, and what you're now going to notice is there'll be live webcast, okay, which we're on now. You're going to go to on-demand webcast if you want to see kind of the recordings, and also the in-person events. So that's not bad. Click on the in-person events. Now, quick heads up, if we actually go to the in-person events, you're going to see they are in Chicago this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Friday's the technical analysis, Saturday the option strategies. And you're going to see that the next one's going to be in Washington, D.C. You do not have to live in those areas to go to those events. You don't have to. You might just be there, whatever. You might travel there. Second thing is, could you bring someone? You bring a guest, okay? Now, also, we're going to be doing a market drive in Dallas, Texas. So some of these events are just one-day events, and you're going to see that. That will be a one-day event in Dallas and Chicago and also Miami later, and actually, Anaheim, okay? So you're going to see a couple one-day events as well. So if you're in these areas, actually feel free to join us there. And what I was kind of thinking about Miami, that was really the Friday, the advanced option strategies there. We will be back down in Miami and had some questions on that. Now, they will start to post 2026. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Coming up soon. So check that link and stay up to date as far as kind of where these events are going. Now, just real quick, let's hop into the markets, kind of see what happened here today. So first off, if we got a quick look at where the markets were to close, we're going to go right back to the indexes. Now, you would think after a PPI reading that was hotter than expected, the market would just completely fall apart. It did. It was down 11 points on the Dow. It was amazing. Got crushed. Maybe not. S&P after that, after getting a hotter than expected reading, oh yeah, it got smashed. It was up 1.96%, so more neutral. And you're going to see that the NASDAQ pretty much finished at par. So sometimes you kind of see this where, quote, negative news should push the market down, but it didn't really push the market down. What does that kind of tell us about sentiment? What does that tell us about trend? This is very important we understand this. So sometimes it doesn't matter what the bad news is. And you can get sometimes news that actually has kind of really how severe is it, but really the bullish investors, they don't really seem to really care about a data point. They're looking at a series of data points, and is that actually really moving in the right direction? Volatility is still here about 14 or so. Now, when we look at the sectors just quickly, before we look at some of these examples, when we actually take a look at the percentage change, financials led, followed by third, actually communications. Notice I skipped over actually healthcare. That's still an area that has been down. There might be a couple of names in there, but again, you're trying to focus on the areas that really have proven trend. And since that's actually a year-to-date negative, that's probably going to be hard to find an uptrend there. And you're probably going to actually have a tough time finding an uptrend there as well in terms of energy. The only one that actually maybe has an uptrend, even with a slightly negative reading on the percentage for the year to date, is Dow Transports. And I want to kind of just point this out for just a second, okay? When you look at the Dow Jones Transports, we talked about this a little bit earlier here today. This is one area that we talked about airlines, okay? I'm going to include rails here today. I normally don't bring those up, but this is an area that if someone kind of likes to see maybe is there a new sector that might be kind of coming online or something, a new area, not just tech, not just discretionaries. Now, by the way, when people say that, yeah, I know communications is going up. Yeah, I know discretionary is going up. Not if you know about it, what do you got in it? I mean, that's the question. I mean, I know a lot of things. Doesn't mean I do anything, okay? So when you take a look at this, is this going to be an area? So first sector we're going to focus on is Dow Jones Transports. Now, you look at that, that's actually had a pretty strong move to the upside. We always like to look at, like, say, W patterns right there, a little down move, a little run back to the upside, middle of the W, a little drop back down, a little double bottom, a little push to the upside. Now, when we talk about after the close, we might be thinking, what might be some fresh bread? What is fresh bread? Well, fresh bread is like maybe new ideas. Maybe are there some new examples? Now, number one is the investor just might buy the sector in general. The second thing is they might say, are there any individual names in transports that are getting the push? I'm not going to talk about United Airlines. I'm not going to talk about Delta. I want to actually bring up just real quick one of the stocks that's getting a little push there, which is CSX Corp. Now, this has been a name that if we kind of look at this. Now, if we said, what price pattern in the market are we seeing quite a bit? Anything? What type of price pattern? Is it like double bottoms? Is it like bullish divergences? Is it bull flags? Is it cup and handle patterns? I mean, literally so many charts that I've been looking at, they look like this. You have a prior high, you have a pullback to the middle, you have a run back to the upside, and these, for a lot of times, they could be like V patterns, they could be cup and handle patterns, and so on. And what you're going to notice on really CSX, we've kind of been seeing this little upward slope here, okay? Now, I get asked a lot of questions regarding how can I find trends? I mean, if we went back to kind of some of the basic teaching, which, by the way, basic doesn't mean people apply, okay? Basic does not mean basic. We want to practice applying. The biggest thing is we could say, how can we actually see trend? Well, when you go back the last month, 2 or 3, does it go from the lower left to the upper right? That's just without even talking about moving averages. If the moving average, right, is higher, you could look at this different. If the moving average is higher now than where it was a couple weeks ago, months ago, that gives you an indication of trend. The idea behind trend is that there has been a history of investors buying it, pushing it to highs, and investors buying it on dips, making higher lows. And we know that we're creatures of habit, aren't we? Okay? And we know that sometimes we keep trying to do what has been done thinking that it might continue. Doesn't mean it always does, but that's the idea. Now, the first trade that we're going to look at here is CSX, and we're going to look at this in terms of a stock trade for just a moment. Now, if you're a brand new investor and said, James, I've never invested, I'm just kind of, been getting started, etc., you might start with a smaller dollar stock. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the chart. This is just we're going to set up an order on the chart itself. Okay. We're going to go down to where it says buy custom. I'm going to go with where it says with OCO bracket. A lot of the times you like to at least have, where do you think the price could go to? Okay. So I'm going to leave that for just a second. So we're going to try to buy 100 shares of stock, and let me bring this up right in the paper money account, CSX. Okay, CSX. The other way you could actually do it, go right to the trade tab. Then what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the ask price. Same thing, buy custom with the OCO bracket. Those are both ways we could do it. Now, the first thing what I want to kind of do is in this account, and if you don't mind, I'm going to even go to the margin account. Let's imagine we had a smaller dollar account, okay? 100 shares of stock, let's close that. And if we bought 100 shares of stock, it's going to be about $36 a share or $3,600. Now, we're going to leave that target for just a moment, but let's go day to GTC. And then we can do 100 shares. What I'm now going to do is put the stop underneath. Now, when I go back and look at that stop where it might be placed, there's a little trend line here, okay? Little trend line. And that trend line might be where some investors, I like to think about a trend line like I call it a trust line. Investors, it can go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. That's not changing trust. That's just day-to-day price action. But that trend line, that's where investors have trusted it over time. Now, that trust is increasing. Now, don't worry. Just like in your relationship with your boyfriend, girlfriend, it's also just like in your marriage. So you got to ask that question. How's the trend line with that? It's very important, okay? Try not to have it. You don't want broken support in that relationship. It's not good. Now, if we take a look at this, what you're now going to notice is, let's say the investor said, James, I'm going to set the stop underneath 35.19. We're going to take less 3%. If we take less 3%, what you're now going to see is 34.13. Now, if I take 34.13, put it right there, 34.13. Now, let's say this is my first trade ever in the history of trading stocks. $36 stock, doesn't have to be 100 shares. Let's say it was 10 shares, 25 shares, right? Maybe practice starting with something that's maybe smaller, okay? And at first, it's not about making money. It's just saying, hey, look, I want to learn. Now, what we actually do in terms of learning is we actually want to make sure that, I'll put that right there, 34.13 right in that paper money account, right there. I want to go day to GTC, okay? So we're in the paper money account, check. We're in that margin account, kind of signifying a lower dollar account. And what I'm going to do is going to go back to this target for just a moment. When I go back and look at that and say, where is the target on that? I'm going to drop back to, let's say, a 3-year weekly for just a moment. The area, so you're kind of seeing that we're at this area. Anything past this, you only have one prior high. Now you got 38, 40, and you got, let's say, $40. Sometimes when you're kind of seeing, could it go up a little bit higher, we might even set a target, let's say 39.15, okay? Now, you got to kind of think back to, what does CSX do? Well, if we go to analyze for just a moment, we go back to, let's say, fundamentals, and I type in CSX, you're going to see that they're doing rail-based freight transportation. Now, we know that it's kind of we're trying to get rates cut. We're trying to spur consumption, and that consumption comes through, let's say, airline in terms of delivering trucks or rails. So some investors kind of might think, hey, could this area benefit from that initiative? Now, what I want to do is I want to go back to the example. Let's go back and put this in. So we got confirm and send. Now what you're going to notice is trade number 1 here, CSX. We came to that because we're going to keep an eye on the transport area. Tuesday, Wednesday, we talked about the airlines. Today, we're going to add a little bit to rails. Now, we did also talk about a little bit transports before. in the form of Uber. So that's going to be something that, by the way, in the after hours, one thing we might want to do if this is an area that we're going to keep an eye on, I'm going to go back to that $DJT for just a moment. If I bring this up back, let's say on the daily chart, one thing that I like to do, this is just kind of me, sometimes we have ideas, but then we forget. Nothing wrong with just setting an alert. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the chart at what I think is a sensitive area, like support or resistance. And what I'm going to do, and by the way, where it could also be maybe a close above the high of the low day. So if we get above today, I'm going to right click right above today's high, create an alert. And if we get at or above today's high, I want to know about it. Could that area be increasing? If that area is increasing, I already know from what we've done on Tuesday and Wednesday, we got the 2 airline stocks. We also got Uber stock. Now we're actually adding CSX. We got 4 stocks in that area. Now, you might be someone like someone here that actually says, look, I might even look for some others. But I'm just kind of keeping an eye on that sector. So in the after hours, I'm saying, what are some stocks that could be setting up? And I'm putting the orders on. I'm putting the alerts on. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you this from experience, okay? A lot of times, the ideas come late. Okay, late, okay? You want to think ahead. This is like playing chess or checkers. You're moving the pieces. You're thinking, if I move here, what are they probably going to do? And if I do this, they do that, what am I going to move with the next piece? It's really important you start thinking ahead, okay? Now, I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying, like in terms of investing, you want to say, if this sector does this, what are the pieces, what are the stocks that I might try to get into? Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to go back to just real quick, any questions? All right. Now, if you have any questions, type those in the chat. Let me go back to just one thing just real quick. Now, I want to kind of also point up, let's go back to Market Watch for just a moment. I want to take a quick look at financials for just a second, but I also want to go back into that transports. When we do this, we can also go to where it says visualize. And when I go to the S&P 500, when you look at, let's say, the S&P 500 and say, look, these little white boxes, that's the sector, I do not see transports. Well, it's in industrials, okay? So when we look at, let's say, industrials, you are going to see there's CSX and there's Uber. They were not bright green here today like Amazon. They're kind of that darker green, meaning they were up, but they just weren't up as much. The one thing we kind of might point out is UNP going up or NSC, and I just want to take a quick look at those for just a moment. And remember, I have the same tools you do, so we can't say, well, James cheating because he had this little secret hot sauce. No, I just used the same tool you did. I mean, here it is, UNP, CSX, NSC, and I just looked at the first one. I swear on my life I didn't even look at this before. And if we take a look at the NSC, I mean, I'm just looking at it. Is this bullish? I mean, what would you say? If we went back and looked at this, now let's kind of look at this second trade here. So what investors like to do is they like to find themes. And we talked about this yesterday. I'm going to do it again. I got kids, okay? Now my kids can hear me. I hope these doors are sealed shut. When I talk to my kids, a lot of times it goes in one ear, out the other. And it's like, did I just waste my air? Okay, so I know sometimes my dad talked to me and man, he said something to me and I just act like I didn't even hear. And sometimes we can do that. So just because, now, so step number one is listen and hear. Do not filter what the teacher is talking about. And that's really important. We filter stuff, okay? Now, when we talk about filter, the teacher is saying, look for uptrends. If we're talking about bullish examples, okay? And how do you see the uptrends? Well, we talked about, are we currently higher than where we were a couple months ago? Are we above, let's say, what's the color of the moving average? Is it green? Are we above support? Maybe like the moving average and so on. Those are things we do not want to filter, okay? Those are principles and practices. Now, if we zoom in on this for just a second, let's kind of talk about these orders. Now, last week we talked about this. Now, again, you might say, well, James, you're kind of like, you kind of express, okay? And that's true, I do, because I want to make sure we're improving, okay? So when I would take lessons, I never told my coach, look, I want to be your best friend, okay? I paid for coaching lessons because I wanted to improve. And if he saw some areas of weakness, I didn't want him to not tell me because he was afraid he was gonna hurt my feelings. Look, I don't care, okay? I want to improve. I want to win, okay? My feelings are secondary to that. Now, if I take a look at this, we talked about last week buy stops. So buy stops or buy stop limits are really where you're saying, look, I see a setup. I like the trend. It's setting up, meaning that it's just not it's not an entry right now, but I'm going to think one step ahead. So Scott Thompson has always asked a question, and the question is as follows. What would you want to see to say this is an entry setup? I think if we ask that question here, a lot of people say, look, I want to see a breakout. Right? Now, we might say breakout how much above that line. Now, we were talking about after the close, and I'm going to tell you this right now. A lot of times people say, well, I'm not good at entries, or I'm not good with selling, but they never had any orders to buy anything, and they never had any orders to sell anything. So it's not that they're not good at entering or exiting. They don't have any orders. So what we want to do is we want to actually practice using orders. The investor is using a buy stop or a buy stop limit, some technical difference. They're using a buy stop or a buy stop limit when they're saying, I'm seeing a setup, but I do not want to get in until we get to this price or higher. Now, if I said to you, let's say the paid money account does not want to get in until we get 1% above resistance, or we get 2% above resistance, okay? So obviously, if you had 2%, you want to see more of an upside push before the investor gets in. If the investor says, James, I like 1%. Now, what we're going to do, so when does the investor use a buy stop? The investor uses a buy stop when they're saying, look, I like the setup, but I want the stock to go up more before I get in. Now, when I say I'm saying the investor is saying that, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on the chart. We're going to go down to where it says, in this case, what was the price? 285.02. Now, remember, if you said to me, James, I am not comfortable with buy stops. I do not like, for example, buying the stock if it gets to that price or higher, and I don't know what I'm buying it for. Fine, I'm with you. So let's just skip the buy stop discussion and go buy stop limit. Same thing, but places a cap. So what we're going to do in the paid money account is we're going to go to NSC. Now let's stop and think about this for just a moment. Here we are, like 17 highs for this year, okay? And a lot of times sometimes we struggle with just kind of committing ourselves to getting in. This is really saying, look, if we go up to this price, 285.02, 285.02, get in. Now, again, don't get so fanatical and like, well, what the best? Should I set it 25 cents? Should I set it maybe like 50 cents? Should I set it $1? It's all dependent upon what the stock price is. If I talk to you about a $30 stock and I talk about a $300 stock, it's not the same dollar amount. Now, for some of us, we might just say, look, I'm going to set it 1%, 2%. Let's even use 1%. If we did 1%, that's going to be about 285.30, okay? So anywhere in this 28-cent area, it's saying do not buy unless we go to this price or higher, and this is the cap. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, okay? I'm just going to tell you the way it is. The investors are not bad at entries. They don't have any orders ready. They don't, okay? So in other words, what I mean by that is they themselves are going to have to sit down on the computer, look at their phone, look at their iPad, whatever, and then they on the spot are going to have to look at the market. Now, you can manually do that, but there's a reason why there's after hours. There's also a reason why there's pre-market hours to set things up ahead of time. If you're manually just trying to make the decisions all the time, you might be missing some of the point of technology. Now, if we take a look at this, we got a target, we got a stop. When we go back and say, where is the kind of the support area? That support area is right about, let's say, 277.28. 277.28 less. And if I did that, 271.73. So 271.73. Stop day GTC. So there it is. Now, when I used to teach in-person events, I'm telling you, I would ask multiple events. I probably did, I don't know, 89 in-person events or so. I went back and counted one time. But I'm telling you, when I would ask the question, how many of you do buy stops? They, at that point in time, which is not that long ago, the average was 85% of the people, asking thousands of people, 85% of the people never did buy stops. That was shocking to me. And so what it leads me to believe is people are trying to say that they're going to have to be there and actually do it. You can decide if that's been effective or it's been ineffective. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to the target here. And if we go back and look at, let's say, the target on this prior high, if we take a quick peek at that, you really actually have, now remember, this is not a bad sign, okay? You got a prior high, you had it fall down, and then we're above that. On the weekly chart, did I say transports? And if we look at this, here we are, kind of old resistance turning into potential new support. Well, if we went back and say, well, this is classic Fibonacci material, when you have these prior highs, okay, now I'm going to draw from where you see resistance, maybe down to, help me out here. Don't just leave me hanging, okay, support. Now, if I take a look at this, I'm not going to take it down to the very low because that'll give extreme reading. We're going to kind of go down to where we saw some multiple touches, okay? Now, what you're now going to see in this case is, now the reason why we kind of don't take it from the extreme levels, you get really big price targets. Many technicians would rather have a greater chance to hit a target than not, okay? Just thinking about it might go up to 350 and then realizing there's only a 10% chance. A lot of people say, look, I'd rather have a higher percent probability of hitting it and a lower potential reward than vice versa. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to set a target at, let's say, 309. Now, what I'm going to do is going to go back to that and put a target right there at 309. Now, I got to tell you a funny story, okay, about an in-person event. Limit GTC. All right, there it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, same thing we actually did before. We're going to put $3,500. Now, this is not buying fractional shares. So if it says 12.26, we're not going to do fractional. We're just going to literally do 12 shares. Now, the one thing I kind of want to point out here is that, you know, we've talked about after hours trading before, right? Pre-market trading. There's a lot of stocks where you can get them to trade hours afterwards. And I think it's kind of exciting in terms of we're kind of thinking in the future. Could these stocks or some stocks be trading around market hours? You know that some certain products, they trade throughout the night. And some of us have different schedules, right? Example given, if I just pulled up Apple, let me pull up Amazon for just a sec. We'll pull up both. Some of these stocks, if you look at these, this has an 18-cent bid-ask spread. And if we watch the volume, just because the market is, quote, officially closed, the standard market hours, it doesn't mean that volume is stopping. There's people buying and selling still in the after hours, not in the same magnitude as before. But you're going to see that number changing and that bid-ask spread is changing. And there's some people that are doing those orders now. You can actually pull up, let's say, Apple, and you're going to see a 23-cent bid-ask spread. And if we watch the volume there, it's still going to be moving as well. Now, not always. There could be some news on these. But what's been kind of surprising is I've seen more, this is like 3 or 4 hours after non-earnings, where there's a lot more activity than there was historically. So that's kind of exciting, especially if you kind of have different, you want to kind of trade at different times and also on different products. Kind of exciting. Now, second trade we're going to do is this is NFC. This is in the margin account. And now what you're going to see is we got a target and a stop. Okay. And remember how that stop works. Okay. We're saying if it goes to that price or less, sell sell the stock. Okay, so this is another stock trade. Okay, send it. Now, okay, good. Yeah, now the comment came in, and Connie mentioned this. Is this class once a week? So quick heads up on this. If we went back to this, okay, so just want to give us a quick reminder. If we pull this up, and first thing is you want this page. Now, when I go out, which is rare, I'm really like a loner, okay? It's just me and Jax in the car, okay? And so I'm telling you, when I go out and get a haircut or whatever, about once every time I go out, someone will ask me, what do you do, blah, blah. And they'll say, hey, and I'll show them. I'll just pull up. I said, pull up your phone, type in Trader Talks. And they say, okay, we're going to watch the class you do, whatever our class is that other people teach. You want to make sure you have this page. Now, this is not a one-off. So what you're now going to notice is you can subscribe for free, okay? Now, the other one you actually want to make sure you bookmark is this page right here. You can actually say, well, where can I see the schedule of what you actually teach? Right here. Now, this really goes, again, like it does, the September, okay? And you go October and so on. You're now going to actually see a schedule throughout the day. So in other words, you get to pick the coach. You get to actually pick the trading product. You get to pick the skill level. If you said, I'm a beginner, great. What classes are on beginner? And that was the question, right? So if someone said, James, this lady that cut my hair last week, she literally said, hey, I'm a beginner. Great. Pull up this page. What classes are on a beginner level? These one, this one, this one, this one, this one, right? If you said, hey, what classes are intermediate? And it'll actually give you, it's going to filter them based on intermediate and what classes are advanced. And what you're now going to see is there's less classes on advanced because they're advanced, okay? So I want to make sure you know about that functionality. And I'm telling you right now, it's kind of sad to me when people like this stuff is out there, but then people don't know about it or where to find it. So you want to make sure it's a simple thing, schwab.com/coaching, okay? Now, if John's question was, why wouldn't you buy the stock after hours instead of GTC? And the answer is you could try to. So when we go back and look at NSC for go back to the order, go to working orders, that was on NSC, so that was correct. Let's go back to NSC for just a moment. Do we think, are we seeing, and I'm just going to pull this up for just a moment. When we look at this, is NSC liquid? Based on the bid-ask spread, would we say that that's liquid? We're talking about after the close, right? No. When we say liquid, we're thinking something that it's the bid-ask spread is narrower than 25 cents. Now, if the other way we could actually verify is it liquid, why are we not buying in the after hours? Well, so number one is it liquid? No. It's 54 cents wide bid-ask spread. If it's wider than 25 cents and we look at this volume and it's like watching paint dry, why are we not buying in the after hours? Because there ain't any after hours activity that's leading to tight bid-ask spreads. That's why we're not buying in the after hours. Okay? Clear? Crystal? Okay? Now, I also want to point something out. If you did not watch this class, now again, there's a difference between knowing about after hours trading and actually like you did it. Okay, you're doing it. And when we say after hours trading, we're talking about stock trading. Okay? We're not talking about option trading. We're not talking about that. Now, on this page right here, I'll send this just to make sure we're clear. He said, I'd like to learn more about that, which is something I've looked at. We're going to click on that little magnifying glass. Click on that. And I'm just going to type in after hours trading. Okay, so when you come to this page, if you said, I'd like to learn about the Analyze tab, or I'd like to learn about XYZ, whatever topic it is, you're searching on our channel right on YouTube. So I'm on our channel. I like to learn about after hours trading. Enter. When I do that, it's going to filter anything that we've actually done on after hours trading. Now, why do I like after hours trading historically, right? Well, the fact of the matter is if you trade like commodities or maybe some financial stocks, etc., some tech stocks, that are actively trading, meaning they trade millions of shares on an average basis, well, a lot of those things are active even before the market, especially if you like energy or basic materials, gold, silver, whatever, copper. Those are all things that have after hours trading on the different products that trade overnight, and that it's actually affecting the stock prices. So many people that actually look at after hours trading, they're going to be probably in commodities. That could be energy, it could be materials, it could be tech, and so on, and financials. Now, let me share this with you. If you say, no, I actually don't have that, James, and I'd like you to put that in my little gift bag here. Well, you want that, and you want to make sure you're crystal clear on the order types, okay? Now, I also want to go back to, just real quick, I want to also go back to we talked about travel for just a second, Airbnb. One of the stocks that is kind of in that process of maybe trying to fill in the gap, you're now going to notice that we kind of have this kind of support area, and there's been a gap on the chart. Now, sometimes when you look at the after hours, you're going to look at each one of them. Now, don't tell me you're too busy, okay? I don't want to hear that. You're not too busy. Nobody's too busy, okay? You ever notice that people that make money, if they're thinking there's a pretty good chance they could potentially benefit, they find ways to stop wasting time, and they find ways to get it done? It's just kind of interesting how that works. So now what you're going to notice is this is going to be one that we're going to set an alert on, or maybe not. If we set an alert, if you said, I like to set an alert, I'm going to right click on this, create an alert. So this way, you're not counting on other people. One of the purposes of education is empowerment. You want to actually learn to say, I get it, and I can do it for myself, or see at least a portion of my portfolio where you feel empowered to execute what you want to execute. The investor said, I want to do a stock trade or an option trade. Well, they might say, look, if we get at or above this level, which is inside the channel, they might say, I want to know about that. I want to know about that as soon as possible, not 3 days later. So here's an example of Airbnb. We're going to discretionaries, which actually pushed to the upside yesterday. This is one where if we go inside this whole channel, it might try to go up to the top of the channel. Now, let's say the investor said, I want to take a bullish position on this, but I want to do it in the form of maybe, let's say, a cash secured put. Now, what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go to the paper trade account, trade, and I'm going to go to Airbnb, okay? So in the after hours, we're really looking at some of these charts and saying, where would the investor consider a potential bullish investment? They might set alerts and or put up orders, okay? Now, the biggest thing is what we're going to do is going to go to the September expiration, and that price that we made mention of, we say, look, if the stock goes to 126.39. Now, here's the question. Let's put our thinking caps on. What would be the out-of-the-money put strike if the stock went to 126? Out of the money put strike is any strike that's below 126. So if we go to the option table and we said, what's the out of the money put strike if the stock went to 126? Well, it'd be the 125, it'd be the 120, the 115, the 110, and so on. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this bid. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that bid right there. And when we do that, we're going to say single sell -1. So this is set up to trigger to sell if the stock gets to a certain price. Limit, market. Now, let me just say something just real quick. Why don't investors do these type of orders? They're not really, they don't have a lot of confidence on maybe what they're doing. The key word is yet, okay? If they knew what their strategy was and they practiced the strategy, the order types come next in executing those orders. We're going to go market. We're going to go dated GTC. Now, when you do market GTC, you're making this order conditional. And it's going to be conditional upon the stock price. So we're saying, look, if you get above 126.39, then sell what? Sell the put strike. Okay? Now I'm going to go into that gear right there. And what it's now going to do, so when I click on this gear right there, okay, click on the gear, symbol, Airbnb, click on method, mark, which is the stock price. We're going to say, look, the stock price. Notice that little sideways V, it's pointing to Airbnb. It's saying we want Airbnb, the stock price, to be greater or equal to what? 123.39. And so what we're going to do is type this in. Now notice what I just said. This is very important. Maybe you just glossed over it. You didn't really catch it. I want to make sure you grab it with both hands. Do you have a set strategy? You trade in breakouts, you trade in bounces. Do you have like a methodology of that? Now this type of setup is really a channel trade, right? In a channel trade, you're trying to catch it as the stock is poking its way through the channel. Now, that's the setup. The order type, in this case, is not a buy stop limit. It's just really a trigger to enter the option if the stock price gets to that price or higher. Now, in closing, what you're now going to notice is we did 2 stock trades. And then what we did is an option trade. And we're saying, look, sell this put if we get to this price or higher. So we did 2 stock trades and 1 option trade. Let's save this, confirm, and send. Now, what I want you to do is go out and think to yourself, what type of strategies are you doing? Take 1 or 2 strategies you're comfortable with, and then take the next step and say, how can I take the strategies that I do and then practice setting up orders in the after hours? Now, feel free to join us tomorrow. Myself, I'll actually be teaching the ETF class tomorrow morning. Check that out. That's on ETFs. Just know that Connie teaches the ETFs also on Monday afternoon, and I teach them with Kevin on Friday. Join us tomorrow and also Monday as well. So I'm out of my time here today. I want to say thanks for the comments and the questions. And also remember that with what we discussed, it was done for example and illustrative purposes only. We'll be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And this has been the class on after the close, defining the strategy and then working order types and alerts to practice those setups. Thanks to all of you and have a great evening. We'll see you back tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.